Hi everyone, thanks again for watching. It's Simon Keeling here at weatherweb.net with your look ahead video updated on Friday the 14th of March. Now, I may not actually be the bearer of particularly good news because I've got a forecast here from the JMA model for spring going into early summer, and I'm not exactly liking what I'm seeing. I suppose we better take a closer look at it, hadn't we? Firstly though, bear in mind this is only one solution, and don't forget that these long range models do change from week to week. It's just that, well, the Japanese actually hasn't been that bad over the last few months, and for guidance it's pretty useful. This is week one, so this is going forwards from today, so from the 14th through to the 20th of March, and British Isles is underneath here, and the red colours here showing us the ridge building in, basically the high pressure that's going to dominate through this weekend into the early part of next week before it looks like it collapses into cooler conditions excuse me, in the middle part to the end of next week, and we go more unsettled. So this is week two. This is from the 21st through to the 27th of March, and you notice there straight away, look, here's the ridge in the Atlantic here, and you notice here, look, a trough down through central parts of Europe, bringing more of a west and northwesterly flow through the UK during next week. Now, it does look, and certainly the GFS making quite a bit of it, making things much more unsettled from the middle to the end part of next week. It kind of gets a first hit on Tuesday, but then really turns more unsettled Wednesday, and then goes cooler on Thursday. The other models are going for it as well, not quite so vociferously as the GFS is, but it does look as if the middle to the end of next week certainly becomes much cooler than we're being used to, and more unsettled too. And again, the JMA model here, the long range model here, is picking up on those ideas too. Now, week 3 and 4, and this is a conglomeration of both. So this has taken us from the 28th of March through until the 11th of April. And again, what this is showing is still that trough look across Eastern Europe there, so Central Europe there, and into Eastern Europe, still the ridge out in the Atlantic. So what this hints at is that it's trying to establish that pattern for quite a while. So it's trying to say, look, once that trough is in, then it may be reluctant to clear away anywhere particularly quickly, or it may come in, it may fade away, and then come back again. And that's what the CFS is suggesting. The CFS suggests that right at the very end of them, that actually next week we go unsettled with that cool snap. Then we go more mixed and unsettled through to the following week. And then from about the 27th, 28th onwards, we see a ridge of high pressure building in again, dominating things. But then from about the 3rd or 4th of April, we go back into this pattern of having a trough to the east and more unsettled, cooler conditions. That's what the JMA hints at too, and that gives us reasonable confidence that this is the way the forecast looks as if it's going to turn out. And for the whole of April, this is how the JMA is suggesting things look. Much lower than normal heights off the west of the UK, and it's trying to put the trough actually through the UK down into western parts of Europe. Now, if that came off, that would be an unsettled and a cool April. So we'd be looking at cool conditions, and we'd be looking at wet conditions too, which of course is exactly what we don't need. You see, you can see how these low the normal heights, these blue colours here, look, are offset by the huge ridge here forming in the northern Pacific. Now again, like I say, don't panic, but I think it's important to get this word out to you that this is what this model, which is taken fairly seriously, is trying to point out at the moment. This is not a forecast, it's just guidance from the Japanese model. As we head into May, this is what the model says for the whole of May. Look again, it's keeping those lower heights through us. It's keeping the jet stream further south, which is what the April was doing as well. And that means that again we're into unsettled, cooler conditions. It would be wetter than normal, and we'd probably find it cooler than normal too, given these conditions. And again, you see here, look, these higher than normal heights here moving into the northern Pacific. And then this is the forecast for June. And again, look, not a great deal of change. It's saying lower than normal heights. It's trying to bring the jet here across the Atlantic, across the UK, and it's keeping us cool, and it's keeping us wet as well. Now, as I say, this is only one model. I can't keep stressing this strong enough. And, you know, I always thought that actually spring probably wouldn't be too bad, but we get a wetter second half of the summer. But this is pointing in the opposite direction. It's not only this model. This is the Korean for the early part of April. So this is what they describe as early April. So I guess the first 10 days of April. And look, completely opposite. It tries to build in ridge of high pressure, keeps us dry, okay, and keeps the low pressure out here in the Atlantic. Basically, what it's going to do is just pump warm air northwards through the early part of April. Then what it says, and by the way, the Korean hasn't performed particularly very well recently. This is mid-April, okay. And by mid-April, what it's doing is, and this is the important thing, ridge out to the west, but this trough here, look, extending right the way through, that deep trough, extending right the way through Central and Eastern Europe. That's the pattern that these models want to keep on going back into. And then, if we take a look at the end of April, so if we look at late April, which is this one, you see, again, there's that pattern, look, this deep trough across Europe, look, ridge out in the Atlantic, but this huge ridge here, look, in the Northern Pacific. They're all going for that idea. So trying to get the unsettled weather in for much of April. So again, it's this overall story that we build of unsettled, cooler, wetter conditions. Perhaps not lasting right the way through the month, but certainly dominating the month as a whole. And this is the forecast from the CFS this morning for April. Again, ridge in the Atlantic, higher than normal heights. But look, there's that trough line. You see it there, the trough line hanging through the UK into central parts of Europe and into the Mediterranean. If that were to come true, then the pattern on this would probably be lower pressure down here in the Mediterranean with that sort of circulation. You'd have higher pressure out here in the Atlantic, again with that sort of circulation. And then through the UK we'd be split in two basically. We'd have a westerly flow bringing rain into Scotland and northern parts of Ireland. But probably southern parts of the UK from time to time would see an ingress of this ridge just building through the country, bringing dry conditions and warmer weather from time to time. But the central or rather the eastern, and the central Mediterranean would be very unsettled. But it's this trough pattern that's the important one to take note of. Now, I don't want you to go away from this with a real doom and gloom forecast, because this, as I say, is only guidance. I think if I'd got to put my money on anything, I'd be talking about it going colder and more unsettled middle to the end of next week. That then lasting through till about the 26th, 27th, and then a ridge building in again at the end of the month, bringing fairer weather, perhaps for 5 or 6 days into early parts of April. Then I think we need to watch for that middle to end section of April going more unsettled, wetter, and also cooler. But I've got to say, confidence on it at the moment is very, very low. So please, please don't panic just yet. Anyway, we'll keep you updated, of course, right the way through here at weatherweb.net. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget, we kept completely free of charge by you coming back and using the site and telling your friends about the site and spreading the word about us. You can follow us on Twitter at WXWeb. But once again, thanks for watching and keep the sun shining. Bye for now.